Pages 218 to 219 in your R books. The learning target. I can write or speak knowledgeably about a subject using information from several texts. I can figure out the key idea of a text and cite text details as evidence. Today we will use information from texts we have read in this workshop to discuss people's feelings toward President Lincoln. And those are your two words on page 218. You have declare and principle. Mm. Okay, so make sure those are in. Let's make some connections. So we're going to read an excerpt from author Jerry C. Ward's, or Jeffrey, sorry, Jeffrey C. Ward's book, The Civil War. In A Nation Mourns, we will read how Americans paid their final respects to President Lincoln. Okay. Okay, so when I am done reading, you'll be filling in all of the work on page 219. Make sure the vocab stuff is information's done first, including your examples. Okay. And let me get the page up. There it is. Okay, so A Nation Mourns. Make sure you're on page 218. In this excerpt from the Civil War, author Jeffrey C. Ward describes the path of the funeral train and how people across the United States paid their final respects to their fallen president. Abraham Lincoln died at 7:22 a.m. The telegraph carried the news across the country in minutes. No president had ever before been murdered. People would remember for the rest of their lives where they were and what they felt and what the weather was like when they heard it. Gideon Wells walked the wet streets of Washington. On the avenue in front of the White House were several hundred African American people, mostly women and children, weeping and wailing their loss. This crowd did not diminish through the whole of that cold, wet day. Lincoln's casket lay in state, first in the east room of the White House, then in the rotunda of the Capitol. He was to be buried in Springfield, his adopted home. Page 219. The funeral train took 14 days. It traveled 1,662 miles through the soft spring landscape, retracing the route Lincoln had taken to Washington 5 years earlier. In Philadelphia, Lincoln's coffin lay in Independence Hall, where he had declared he would rather be assassinated than to surrender the principles embodied in the Declaration of Independence. The double line of mourners stretched 3 miles. In Manhattan, scalpers sold choice window positions along the route for $4 and up. The procession lasted 4 hours. Blacks had been barred from the New York ceremonies, but a last-minute change of heart by the mayor permitted them to take part, provided they marched at the rear. At Cleveland, no public building was thought big enough to hold the expected crowds, and an outdoor pavilion was set up through which 10,000 mourners passed every hour, all day, despite a driving rain. There was a run on black drapery material in the city, and many households had dyed their own. The rain caused scores of draped buildings to run with black. It finally ended in Springfield on May 4th. Among the thousands of people who shuffled past his coffin were many who had known him in the old days, farmers from New Salem, law clients, and rival attorneys, neighbors who had nodded to him each morning on his way to work. General Joseph Hooker, in charge of the final leg of the long journey, led the slow march through gentle rain to Oak Ridge Cemetery. And once you're done listening to the story, I'm going to look up one word. Okay, so now that you've listened to the story, go ahead and fill in the 3 questions on the page 219. Okay, so you have key idea, How do Americans pay their final respects to President Lincoln? Then you have a read critically question, focusing in on paragraph 3, and a react and write. Okay. I wanted to look up one word before I stopped there. Oh, there it is. Here. Okay, so make sure when you're writing, you're using complete sentences.
That face that is usually covered by her clothes has finally made an appearance. That face wouldn't be doing that if you weren't.
Okay. And that's it. That's the video.